Without chemistry, a relationship is doomed. As I mentioned in my short video recently, you can predict a breakup based on oxytocin measurements. Oxytocin is a critical neuropeptide hormone in creating sexual bonding and attachment. So when a couple is new and they are in love, they have much higher baselines of oxytocin than those who are single. In a 2012 study, the measurements of baseline oxytocin levels were taken with new couples, and as predicted, the couples with lower levels of baseline oxytocin in the beginning of the relationship were predicted to break up before the 6-month mark. So, and that ended up being true. So it doesn't matter how good someone looks on paper, how good of a match she should be, or how good of a match she thinks you should be based on your traits and how you fit in socially and everything else. All right. If the chemistry is not there, it's not going to work. And science proves that a relationship is doomed without it. So today we're going to unpack that and figure out how to get that elusive chemistry. All right. Welcome to Apex Underground Pod Class. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and throw that in the comments section. And also on school. Thanks for mentioning that because I commented on your thing today. Good. You can get into my free part of my community. I got a paid area for my coaching group clients, and then there's the free area, and you are welcome to join that for free. The link is in the description. We have great discussions over there, away from censorship and away from the nonsense, all about these sorts of topics involving mindset, success, entrepreneurship, and dating and relationships. And we take things to a much higher level here. So if you get on that community, you're going to, get some good things out of it, even if you're just in the free section. But anyways, I'm glad you're here, man. And so don't forget to post that because I want to answer that question for you. Now, today we're going to talk about relationship chemistry. It's pretty important. And chemistry isn't just this idea. Like, it's funny because, we've been, the idea of having chemistry, quote unquote, has been around for quite some time. And it's been around before we even had the science behind a lot of what involves desire, sexual desire, love, and attachment, and all those things. We know a lot more today in 2024 than we did 10, 20, 50 years ago. But the term chemistry really isn't an inaccurate term. Attaching to somebody, feeling desire, having her feel desire for you during that dating process, and getting to that point where you have those love feelings, those sexual feelings, those desiring feelings, that's all a neurochemical process in the brain. And I like the term neurochemical, even though it's not necessarily what's commonly used in academics. It just kind of encompasses everything with your neuropeptides, your neurotransmitters, your hormones, the whole mix of everything that's going on in your body's chemistry, can be described really by that neurochemical reaction. So it's a reaction in the brain, reaction in the body, based on all those natural chemicals you have. And so that reaction happens, and that's what causes attachment. All right. And here's the thing about that. What they find, and this is what I found anecdotally coaching guys and dealing with people, having good relationships, helping people get into really good, healthy, strong relationships that are long lasting. In my research, having interviewed people who've been together 30 plus years and still seem to have that high desire for each other, because those, being together for a long time isn't necessarily a measure of success. A lot of people are together, and statistically speaking, 85% of those people are not fully satisfied or unhappy. But I've had a chance to talk to that 15% that, because I haven't been doing this for 30 years, right? But people who've been in marriages, relationships for 20, 30 plus years, and they seem to have that desire and would be a part of the 15% if they took that series, that study, if they took that poll for that study. And so I've seen what works, what doesn't, working with a lot of guys. And one thing that's common is that if the chemistry isn't good in the beginning, then it's not going to last. Okay. That's the thing. There's got to be high desire at least some point in the beginning of this relationship in order to carry it through. Now, I don't want to get into the weeds about people who, someone in a social circle or a friend or someone who's like platonic girl that you end up hooking up with later, and then it kind of kicks off the relationship. But you've known each other for 5 or 10 years, or like you reconnect with some girl you knew in college, or something, right? Like, and then it kicks off that relationship. I mean, obviously, there's not going to be high oxytocin, and oxytocin is just a measurement tool, because oxytocin is not the only neurochemical neuropeptide involved in connection and relationships. And actually, the concoction is slightly different for men versus women too. That's important to recognize, because how men and women love each other, quote unquote, they actually are different when we look at the chemical profile, and we also look at the reactions, how men and women are acting. But anyways, that being said, that connection is a chemical process, and if it's not there in the beginning, it's good luck. If even if you're friends with somebody, or you knew somebody from college, and 10 years later you get in a relationship, when that relationship kicks off, you have to have those high feelings and those high emotions for each other, and it has to be to a certain degree or a certain level. Because if it's not, then it's just not going to work out. You know what I mean? It's not going to go well. And that's the problem with that. And so you have to be aware of those things. I'm looking for a comment I want to read. I have to find the comment. But if you guys have any questions, or I'm gonna have to paraphrase this though, because I thought I had it up. Somebody had asked me. Here we go. Yeah, I do got it. So this, what sparked off this little stream here was a question someone put on YouTube. I do answer your guys' questions. I recommend, though, if you really want to get an in-depth discussion, you get into my free community, as I mentioned in the beginning. The link is in the description of this video. That way you can get feedback from a lot of different guys, as well as myself. But that being said, so this was a good question. I thought it would make a good show. So he asked me, what if everything is great on paper, but the vibe isn't there? Okay, so he's dating somebody. He said, what if everything is great on paper, but the vibe isn't there? I'm not super excited to see her, but think I should be because of what she is. Before I move on, I want to ask if it's maybe a me problem and I'm not getting her comfortable enough to be herself. I'm her first everything. She has no dating experience, and she's really into me. Thanks for advance. I don't want to miss out on a good thing. So this is a common problem, and it's usually a problem with women more so than men, which is they're with somebody that seems to make sense. It's like, this person is attractive. Everybody, if I saw a picture of her, I'd say she's pretty, she checks a lot of blocks. She checks the blocks of being like, quote unquote, a good girl or a good woman for a long-term relationship, but you just don't feel the chemistry there. You just don't feel that connection. You don't feel as drawn to that person or as crazy about that person than maybe you should be. And women run into this problem all the time. Women have more pragmatic needs when they start to get involved in a relationship, especially if they're looking at settling down with somebody. So what happens is they'll meet a guy who's good settling down, quality material, right? He's good material to settle down with, but he's not pushing her buttons. She doesn't feel the desire or the chemistry or the attraction to this guy. And so then it's like this confusion, like, do I stick with this guy who's good husband and father material to try to raise a family, even though I'm not as attracted to him as I have been other guys in my past? Or do I, do I stick with him and try this out, or do I dump him and try to go with somebody that I have a stronger sexual desire for? And that's that bargain that women are making all the time. And they usually bargain for settling. Okay. And that's important to know as a man, because if you're at that ripe age of a girl to settle with you, okay, you need to be aware that this is a thing. You don't want to let a girl just settle with you when she's got a wish and a hope that she'll have some sort of sexual desire for you that will happen in the future, because maybe her past experiences, have dictated that, she's more attracted to somebody in her past. We call that an alpha widowing, right? And so, like, you don't want to be in that circumstance. You don't want to invest a relationship, invest resources, try to build a family, try to build a life with, and even just have the attachments yourself, the neurochemical attachment to somebody who doesn't see you as her best, to somebody who doesn't have maximum sexual desire for you. That is a real problem. It's kind of the root of the reason why that's talked about a lot, and things like notch count are talked about too, being alpha widowed, like all of these, these in some ways pathological fears that men have, that she's got, she slept with Chad and now you're just the guy she settles with. That meme or that story, though, is a real story. It's not an unreasonable fear, an unreasonable concern. I think it's pathological by the way that they approach it. You know what I mean? The way that guys approach this, it can be pathological. But that being said, it's a real problem. It's a real concern, because as a man, if you invest in somebody who doesn't have that attachment to you or that chemistry to you, doesn't see you as that best option, good luck. It could end, it's probably going to end in divorce or a breakup. It's probably not going to go well. And statistically speaking, most women, we're talking like, I don't know, remember the exact number, but I know it's above 70%. It's really high. Like 2/3 of women are not marrying the person who they had the most desire for in their lives. And so most guys are the guy that she's settling with. That's a real problem. And they do this because they hope it's going to work out in the future. But you can't, you know what I mean? You can't, it's almost like a covert contract. Like, well, if I put my commitment into this guy who's good relationship material, maybe he will magically turn into the person I'm desiring or have maximum desire for. Now, if you're a man in this position, right, there is something you can do about it, and that's improve your seduction skills. This is where your game and your seduction skills do matter. If she sees the potential in you as being her apex alpha, in her, the best guy she's ever been with, but it hasn't happened for her yet, it's like, that means there's enough attraction, there's enough desire for you to be that person for her. All it takes, though, is you making the right decisions to, in the relationship, having the right behaviors, having the right communication, and having that game and those seduction skills. All right. So that's something that people come to me for, because that makes or breaks a difference. It's not about SMV, like how tall you are or how jacked you are. If she is attracted enough to you, okay, it's more about how she feels. It's more about how you guys interact with each other, which is predicated on your behavior and your seduction skills. All right. So that's something that you can improve on. All right. But when I hear a guy with this question, which is like, I should be attracted to her, but I'm not, what's going on here? Should I give this a chance or not? What that tells me is that that guy who asked that lacks awareness when it comes to his own attraction triggers and choosing the right girl for a relationship. So And girls have blind spots here too, more so than men usually. But with anybody, guy or girl, says, "Oh, this person should be somebody I'm attracted to, but I'm not. Well, why is that? What should I do about it? I like to be attracted to them because they look good on paper. How can I fix this?" That tells me that that individual is missing some things. Okay. There's some parts missing in their awareness. All right. So as you develop as a man and as a human being, because this is women too, okay, you get, you have a genetic predisposition to being attracted and having, sexually attracted to somebody of whatever, right? So you have this predisposition from birth as you get hormones, as you become, a sexually viable adult. It's as you grow into that, you have a natural propensity to want to be attracted to certain things, certain types, whatever, right? And then there's, of course, experiences and social conditioning that happens along the way. And that develops or creates attraction triggers or sexual triggers. So a certain thing a girl might do or say, or a certain part of her body, because as guys are really visual, to take it really simply, a guy who's an ass man versus a boob guy, right? Like that has to do with attraction triggers and, things that have developed over time. Somewhere in that guy's development, he learned to associate, sexual desire with a nice round, fat booty, right? Or the other guy was more about, breast size and shape for that other guy. You see what I mean? So like it's developed over time, and girls have that same thing. There's certain things that will cause a girl to be sexually or emotionally triggered, and we call it attraction triggers. All right. And so when somebody doesn't know why they're not attracted to somebody, it tells me that there's blind spots. They don't understand enough about themselves and what they really want and what triggers them or attracts them. And this is very, very common with women. Women often say they want this checklist of things, and then they date or have sex with somebody who doesn't fit their checklist. And then they don't know why. Well, there's reasons why, and it's because their mammalian brain and instinctual brain is driving sexual decisions, is driving these attraction triggers. And yes, there's a certain amount of conditioning that happens along the way, but it's all speaking to that, that mammalian part of the brain, that instinctual part of the brain, okay, that animal part of us that wants to mate, okay? So the animal part of us is what's driving our sexual behaviors and our emotional attachments when it comes to relationships. And there's often times with people, women especially, and there's reasons for that. If you want me to get into it, ask in the chat, but it's not really the topic. So, but there are reasons for it, but women have a bigger disconnect. But guys can often get that way too, because your logical frontal lobe is not the same parts of the brain in operation as your instinctual mammalian type parts of your brain and your physical reactions to things. And so there's often a disconnect between the two, which means you don't understand where your sexual arousal is and where it comes from, like what is causing this arousal, when it comes to the details. And so that's the first thing, that's the first order of business, okay, is that you need to learn about yourself and figure that out. You have to know yourself in order to know what you actually want, okay? And identity, and this is where it comes down to identity work. And I do identity work with guys. If you've bought the Alpha Mindset course, we have chapters on identity. We talk about it in the mastermind group for my guys in that coaching group. Guys who have some of these struggles and problems, sometimes the homework or the assignments that we're doing together in one-on-one consultations is working on identity. That's so important, because if you don't understand who you are, like most people don't know who they are. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Like, who are you? Ask yourself that question. Can you answer that in a couple sentences with clarity and assurance, self-assurance? Most people can't. Most people don't really know how to answer the question, who am I? How do I describe myself? How is my description of myself different than who I actually am as a man? Most men don't understand who they are. They really don't. You're just reacting to the world. You have things that you want, and you want the prescription. This is why guys get all mad and pissed off, okay? Because they don't just go, oh, it's step 1, 2, and 3, and then, someone touches your wiener or you get $1 million or whatever. This is the stupid shit that most people want, and it doesn't work. You don't get anywhere. You just feel better listening to it. And this is what most of YouTube is. This is what most paid coaching programs are. It's stupid, shitty steps that you aren't going to follow because you don't have any self-awareness. All right. So this is where I yell at you in the podcast. That's fine. But some of you need to be yelled at. All right. Because seriously, some people are just they're reacting to the world and chasing the dopamine and the feelings. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, oh, you want to get your girl to have more sex with you? Follow these 3 rules, or whatever. Y'all click on that shit. You won't listen to this though. I mean, a lot of you guys, some of you guys, of course, you're here, and that's because you're better. All right. Those of you who listen to this shit kind of content, the kind of stuff I'm doing, whether it's me or whether it's somebody else who can get more detailed, those of you who listen to this stuff and take the time and actually listen to audiobooks and actually do actions in your life, you're different. Okay. You're a different breed of person. You're more like the person in my mastermind group. All right. Versus everybody else on the internet. But most everybody else on the internet, they want the 3 easy steps in the shortest fucking video possible, the shortest amount of content possible. No understanding and no awareness happens for them. They just want to feel better listening to it. Well, those 3 steps will get me laid more often in my marriage, or will get me more dates, or will get me more money, or will get me a jacked body. Like, dude, you don't need any more fucking steps. For most of these things, you already know what to do, but you're not doing it. And the reason why you're not doing it is because you lack the awareness. You don't understand yourself, what motivates you, and how to have that discipline and tailor your plans and your behavior so that you're doing things on a regular basis to get what you want. Most of you are lacking that piece in certain areas, which is why you don't have what you want in certain areas. Okay. More information is not going to help you. More information is just going to be more information. In fact, if the information is too detailed, you'll get lost in it and you won't follow anything, right? Because that person isn't looking for self-awareness and looking to be more aware of the situation, the problems themselves, and how to implement a solution. That person is just wanting a prescription and steps to get what they want. And that's lower level thinking. So let's make a distinction here. All right. Lower level thinking is, I want this thing. Give me steps and rules to get the thing. And that's it. That's what lower level thinking is. That's what most people do. They don't know why they want the thing. They just know that the thing feels good. You know what I mean? They want someone to, pat them on the head and tell them they're a good boy and rub their tummy and make them feel nice. All right. That's what most men do now because men are lacking in masculinity. So it's just that's lower level thinking. I want the thing. Give me the steps for the thing. Oh, I'm too busy. Like you're so fucking busy, right? Like you got so much shit to do. What you're actually doing is a lot of, nonsense that isn't helping you most of the time. But people are so busy. They need the quick, easy solution to get the thing to make them feel things, right? Like that's lower level thinking. Okay. So you have to take yourself above that into higher level thinking, which means, why do I want this thing? All right. Sometimes that's not obvious. Like, what is it? Why don't I have this thing yet? Start asking yourself the right questions and start getting awareness of the situation, the world around you, yourself, and the problem you're trying to solve and the goal that you have. And then you start executing and taking that action, right? So that's higher level thinking, is trying to understand it better so you can take action, not just looking for simple steps. So if you're here, you're having higher level thinking. If you're in my community, you're having higher level thinking. And that's smart because you'll get results where other people will fail. They'll just watch content and, jack off themselves with dopamine and making themselves feel better. And they'll fucking not get anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And so that's it, Now, back to what you need to do. So this is the thing. Like if you're confused, you don't have this awareness, you need to do identity work. All right. Now I'm going to talk about it, but really, and give you some pathways to it. But on YouTube, it's actual work you have to do. So I can't do the work for you. We can't do it here. All right. But I'm going to give you some advice or solutions, because if you want anything in life, you have to do this. You have to do some level of work to have an understanding, to have awareness, and then to take action to get it. And the guy who asked this question, I'm sure he had that in mind. It's a great question. You know what I mean? But there is the 20% of you that will do that action, that will seek out better awareness of a situation so you can take better action. And then there's the 80% that won't. So some of you who are on the fringe and you know who you are, you're smart enough to do better, but you don't. I hope that this is an inspiration for you to do a little bit better and to seek out awareness. Okay. And seeking out awareness means taking a little bit of time, whether you're driving, whether you're working out, whether you're walking, or whether you're just in the morning playing something in the background while you get ready, and passively kind of listening and understanding and maybe taking notes, taking some time to learn and understand, right? That's part of a process. This is what this channel does for you. Okay. It's taking some time, and it's comfortable. It's nice. You get to just sort of passively learn stuff. But when I say passive, it's like you're just listening to it and trying to understand it better. That should be part of your process of making changes in your life, because that getting that better understanding of things is going to allow you to take action. Now, I'm not saying just to passively listen to things and never take action. That would be bad. But, it's both things. You want to seek out that understanding. And then when it comes to yourself and what makes you attracted to somebody or whatever, you need to seek out that understanding too. And that starts off with identity. Okay. So I'm going to offer you 5 things in this video that will give you on a pathway of understanding yourself, improving your game and seduction, and getting the women that you want. All right. But you got to take action on this information and do what I say. Like if I say sign up for my community and it's free, do that. All right. The stuff that costs money, you may or may not have money for. And I get that. But at least do the minimal things. You know what I mean? If I say take some time to every day to sort of passively listen and read and understand some things to get better awareness of things, right? If I say that as part of your process, do that. Okay, do what I say. All right, because if you don't do it, you won't get the results. You're not going to get where you want. Okay, so that's the thing. And if you don't listen to me, then you'll suffer in mediocrity. You won't get what you want. So the choice is going to be yours. Now, identity work. This is probably the most important thing, and it's the least. It's the answer that nobody really wants in a way, because what you want is, well, what do I do to have better sex with this girl, or to make her more interested, or to, whatever, to create some situation with this girl where we feel more attracted to each other. You want that information, that seduction information. And that's okay. I'm going to give you that today too, but that's not the most important. The most important thing here in this case is understanding yourself better. All right. So that's where you have to do the identity work. Okay. So identity work means it's going through a process of actually analyzing and understanding yourself, because you don't really know who you are until you do this. You're mainly somebody who is what you are is a pile of flesh, okay, and thoughts that have been developed through social conditioning and has a foundation in some genetics. So you have the material you were genetically born with, and then since growing up and your experiences, your parents, raising you, experiences with your friends, sibling, family, school, interactions with the world, all your trauma, all the bad things that's ever happened to you, plus all the good things. It's made up this bucket of experiences that your genetic makeup has responded to, and that helped formulate your responses to the world and how you see the world and your values and beliefs. And that's what you are now. You're a pile of those things. Most people are not fully aware of the details of what all those things are. You become aware of those things, then you can make yourself into the better version of yourself. See, people like to say on YouTube, especially in the men's help space, they like to just repeat platitudes. You know what I mean? Like, be the better version of yourself. Great platitude, love it. How do you do that? Right? How do you be the better version of yourself? And what most like coaches or content creators will do is they will give you an avatar of somebody you're supposed to be like. Right? They're not giving you the tools to figure out who you are. They're giving you an image of a person that you're supposed to be like. You're supposed to be an entrepreneur, or you're supposed to be, physically fit in a certain type of a way. You're supposed to have a certain type of relationship, whether it's a Christian marriage or a bunch of hoes or whatever. You're supposed to do whatever that avatar is. And whoever is delivering the message, they create the avatar. And that avatar is serving them. Even if their intentions are good, the avatar is serving them. It's serving their worldview. It's serving the ability for you and more people like you to support them. All right. If I were to, come out and maybe use my military background, look cool, do some photo shoots, do some high-speed videos, maybe I'll shoot some shit, maybe I'll just do a bunch of stuff to make me look like super alpha male, right? And then be like me, fucking whatever, right? Pull up in a Lamborghini, whatever, right? People would be attracted to that. I'd have all these fucking followers. But what I would have is followers. That's what I'd have is followers. I wouldn't have men who are coming to me for advice, who want to do better in their own lives. I would have men who want to escape their lives to be like somebody that they're not. And they see this avatar that I created as a thing to be like. Most of people are trying to escape themselves. They're trying to escape who they are. And all their decisions are based in that. And then they find themselves in mediocrity, or only moderately happy, or not happy at all. And actually, mediocrity and moderately happy is the worst place to be, because that won't inspire someone to change. And then that's it. They die like that. They live the rest of their life that way. They die like that. They're never enough to meet this avatar that someone else told them that they should be, but they're not too shitty to where they're homeless or, taking themselves out of the gene pool or thrown in jail or hospital. Like, they're just somewhere in between those two things. And they die never knowing who the fuck they are. All right. That's what followers are. I could create an avatar. I know how to do it. I have this. It's marketing. I can create an avatar. All right. I can use the tactics, create an image of what you're supposed to be like. And 80% of people out there as men will follow that. And I'll have a lot more followers, but I won't have men who are getting my advice, taking action, and actually doing better to be like themselves. I have instead people who are wanting to be like whatever thing I'm presenting, whatever avatar that is. And that is most of your self-help. That is most of your, men's help, manosphere, whatever you want to call it, stuff. And the problem with it is it doesn't help. It doesn't actually help you. being like somebody that you're not, or trying to be like some other person, where maybe some of the qualities fit. Maybe you like Lamborghinis and you want one. Cool, that's who you are, right? But maybe some of these other things don't fit, right? And here you are trying to be like something else in order to make you happy. You haven't done anything different than when you were a kid or you were a teenager. Mommy and daddy told you what you needed to be like, and you followed it or you rebelled against it while you tried to find yourself. All right. But either way, and then if you rebelled against it, you were following friends or some other ideology or something else. You're just a follower. You're not figuring yourself out. And people who are followers of content creators and trying to be like an avatar are haven't graduated past childhood. They're not fucking men. Okay? Being a man means breaking free of that social conditioning that from your parents and from everybody else, and figuring out who you are and figuring out what you want. And that includes in your relationships. That's the hard work. Okay. That's the hard thing that most people won't do. And that requires taking active measures into figuring it out, into doing that self-discovery. Okay. So I'm going to give you some tools. I'll mention some things. All right. So on your own, you can do things like meditation, journal writing, walking, and try to figure yourself out, doing a little bit of that every single day. It's free and you can do that and you'll start to learn and understand yourself. Okay. If you want to know who you are, start writing things and visualizing what you would like your life to be like. And then start, okay, like if you want to live in a mansion, or you want to travel the world, or you want to have a harem of women, or you want to go, to a third world country and help out, impoverished people and people with medical problems. If you want, I could start going down the list, right, of different things that you could visualize for yourself. If you could visualize those things for yourself, that's going to be part of who you are. Now, some of that might be socially conditioned, and that's where you have to do some journal writing and some inventory in order to discover it. And then you figure out some practical steps and some goals, and that'll give you an idea. It won't fully give you an idea because you don't know yet what has been told to you and what's been conditioned and what's actually coming from you, but you'll start to get some awareness. When you try to get awareness, when you try to see something, you'll start to see it. It's like those paintings, right, where they have a bunch of dots and whatever, and it looks like a big mess of colors and dots and stuff. But then if you look at it and look at it, all of a sudden image, like a 3D image comes out, or all of a sudden a number, you can see a number in there. There's different ones, right? But you've seen those, right? Everybody's seen them. Those pictures where you can't tell what it is. And the longer you look at it, the brain starts to figure it out. It's just like figuring yourself out. You guys don't spend any time trying to look at it. But if you start just trying to look at it, you'll start to see some things. Okay. Now you might be wrong about some things, but it's a process. Okay. So that's at least going to give you a start, and that's free. Now, there's other things, is getting social support, getting feedback. People who just try to find themselves without any social feedback turn into nutcases. Okay. Because you don't know everything. You got to get feedback from others around you. My community in school, it's free. I'm going to mention it again. You go on there and you start illustrating your goals and needs and thoughts and shit like that, and people give you feedback. And it's relatively anonymous. I require you to fill a profile out because I want to make sure you're not a spammer, but you don't have to worry about social repercussions when you're in my private community. You know what I mean? But you can get feedback from friends and family too. But you have to understand, though, that feedback from friends and family, it's going to be coming from them, and there's going to be some self-interest in the way that they see the world is going to be an influence on what they tell you. You always got to remember that. You got to remember the motivations of the messenger when you're getting feedback. Okay. Now that's the basic way. Now you want to do something a little bit more than that to figure your identity out. I have a step-by-step process illustrated in the Alpha Mindset course. That course is 52 modules. It will help out your inner game. It will help you with the identity work. All right. And it's lower cost compared to the other things I do. It's low cost. So you can buy that, you keep it forever, and work the modules. There's specific modules on identity and on building, discovering what that is, building that up, and then moving towards being that best version of you. All steps for those guys who want the steps of discovery and figuring our identity out are in that course. So it deciphers it a lot easier for you, rather than just sort of meditating and journal writing and trying to figure it out on your own, where you're going to have blind spots. So I'll help you with those blind spots in the Alpha Mindset course. And then you can ask questions on the community if you want. Now, even more so, if you want to actually level up areas of your life, and rapidly do that, not just self-awareness, but actually get more money, get better relationships, get better sex, get on your mental point of origin, become more masculine, have a better sense of purpose, like all of those things. That's what guys are doing in my mastermind group. It's an interview only process. I only take people I feel comfortable with. So you have to schedule an interview, get on school, and then DM me, say, hey, I'm kind of interested in the mastermind. And you and I can start a conversation there. Identity is critical to what I do when it comes to game, when it comes to picking up girls, what I do when it comes to managing your relationships. Okay. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you truly want. And then with that, you can figure out why there's chemistry or why there isn't chemistry with a particular girl. And you can figure out whether it's a you problem or whether it's a her problem, and what you can do about it. Sometimes there isn't anything you can do about it. She's just a certain way, and you're a certain way, and your goals aren't aligned, and your attraction triggers aren't aligned. You're just not going to be attracted to each other, even if she looks good on paper. And that's okay, but you'll figure that out early and not waste a lot of dates on that. Some people marry that shit, and they're not satisfied. That's happened. I'm going to keep myself out of this because I have experienced it. And I don't want to disregard somebody in my past, but guys have done this. Guys do this all the time. They get with the girl, they get in the commitment with the girl. And actually, this is really important because this might be something we're talking about later tonight for my mastermind guys. This is actually really important. Okay. Because this is how guys destroy their lives. All right. So what happens is the first hierarchy of reproductive need is just getting sexual access, or as I jokingly say, getting a girl to touch your wiener. Okay. So most guys are just trying to get girls to touch their wieners, and that's like their whole thing. And then they go through dry spells. They have scarcity of women. They sleep with girls they're embarrassed about sleeping with. And then occasionally there's all kinds of stuff that happens. They throw a lot of morality and stuff. Not that sex shouldn't be attached to morality and values, because it absolutely should be, but they throw on morality and values around sex to avoid, basically to protect their own egos, because they don't get sexual access to women. Okay. And so that's like 80% of guys. And so then they get a girl to regularly touch their wieners, as I say. That leads to the next hierarchy, which is genuine desire. A man wants desire from a woman. All right. Now, what guys do is they get the girl who will be in a relationship with him and who touches his wiener regularly, let's say once a week, which isn't very much, but let's say that's good enough for him because he's scarcity, right? And he ends up fucking marrying this girl. He's not crazy about her. He's questioning the relationship. But why do we do that as men? There's a reason why women do that. Okay. And the reason why women do it is because they're bargaining. All right. And so they're bargaining and placing a bet. So when women settle, they have 5 hypergamous needs that are exceeding, their awareness. All right. And there's 5 needs outside of just sexual desire. Okay. Or emotional attachment. There's these needs that are in play, and a girl will get with a guy or settle usually who satisfies one or two of the security side of the needs, the security, paternity, maybe even legacy. So they pick the good guy, right? But they lack, they're maybe 50% in sexual desire, and the emotional attachment isn't as high either. Listen, if you're that beta guy, or if you're that guy that she's settling with, her emotional, she may say, oh, I love him. He's so much better than the guy that treated me poorly, my crazy ex-boyfriend who, I was on and off again for 5 years, right? She might say, I feel more emotionally drawn and attached to my husband. But the reality is that the guy that she was in an up and down relationship with, she had more emotional attachment to that guy, not her husband. She had emotional comfort with the husband. She felt safer with the guy she's less attracted to. But with the guy she was more attracted to, she had more of an emotional attachment and felt more hurt. And when those, I'm going to talk about the neuroscience behind love at another time, because it's going to be really detailed. And I don't know that everyone's going to want to sit through it. But, she had that feeling of getting her heart ripped out more when things were on the down spike, or when they had the breaks and stuff with this guy that she was crazy about. So, so usually what the compromise is when a girl like gets married or gets into a long-term relationship, when she needs to settle down, is the guy is good. He's trustworthy. He provides good security. Would be good dad material. And he's, gonna build a life with her. And maybe that guy gets that healthy attachment to her too. And so she is making that bargain. She's placing that bet. She hopes on her wedding day and during that honeymoon phase that she can get crazy about him the way that she got crazy about some toxic guy she couldn't make it work with, or whatever, right? It's hoping this will work. And what happens is the guy, after the wedding, or after the long-term relationship, or after moving in together, whatever your milestone is, okay? What happens is the guy doesn't put more effort into the relationship most of the time, especially if he's, that weaker guy who is just doing what everyone else tells him to do. If he's not you, all right? If he's not an alpha type guy, what is he doing? He's not trying to make himself better. So once he gets the relationship, gets the girl, it's like, oh, I did the steps, I got my needs met, let me do something else, which is usually be as lazy as possible, right? So he stops courting his girl. He stops trying to seduce her. He stops, making sex adventurous. He stops doing all the things that you would do in the beginning of the relationship to get the girl. He stops doing that once he gets the girl. That's what most guys end up doing. So you got two things that happen. You got a girl who's making a bargain and a covert contract, hoping that the stable, nice guy she feels more comfortable with is going to step up somehow and be the guy that she desires. And then you got this guy who ends up not doing those things because most guys are complacent. When they get what they want, they stop trying. So he's not trying to be better and more seductive. And she's hoping he's going to do that. So what happens? Divorce, and after she meets her milestones, whatever those milestones are, whether it's a nice wedding, or whether it's a certain income level where she can take half his shit, or whether it's a couple of kids, whatever. She's 5, 6, 7 years later, she fucking does the other thing. And it's not always the guy's fault either. There's things she's doing wrong too. She was in a covert contract. She didn't desire the guy as much, and she's bargaining with herself. Guys don't necessarily bargain, though. Guys do this shit too. You guys get into these relationships that you're not crazy about. You're not excited about it. You're in a commitment that you wish was better and different. You know what y'all end up doing? Y'all end up simping for girls online when your wife or girlfriend isn't looking. You guys end up fucking cheating. You guys end up checking out other broads and wishing that you were out of your relationship. You guys don't run your relationships the way that you want. You know what I mean? You guys don't have an adventurous sex life. And I'm talking about the guys in this position. If I'm speaking to you, it's not a criticism. It's just the hard truth, man, that you need to hear. And it's because guys settle too. All right. Well, guys settle. It's not this bargain. I mean, it is kind of, but it's actually usually this is the reason. And this has to do with your neurochemistry. Okay. What happens is, okay, girl touches wiener regularly. You want her to desire you. Her desire sometimes there, sometimes not. So it's kind of like isolating. So you're just, or oscillating. So you're just kind of trying to get desire as much as you can. And you would spend your whole life trying to do that. Most guys, even when they stay married, that's what they do. They never take it into high desire is established and now she's a good complement companion. That's that third level. Most guys never get there. They're between, I wish my girl would touch my wiener more often to, maybe I wish she liked me. All right. They're somewhere between trying to get their wife or girlfriend to like them. All right. As well as have sex with them. That's where most guys are stuck. All right. They don't get to the point where those two things are given without ego protection, without lying to themselves. They get as much, if not more sex than they can handle. And the girl is all over him in desire. And now it's a question of how do we build a life together so that we can complement each other and, do better in life together and exponentially increase our results together versus work against each other because we have all this desire for each other. That's the third level. Most guys don't get to that third level. All right. And so what happens though is this: you get this girl, she's all right. She has enough desire to at least want the transactional things that you have to offer. Maybe you're a stable guy, you're nice, you're fun, whatever, right? Her desire is sometimes there, sometimes not, because you're not her best, but she's never telling you that. And so, but here's the thing. She has a little bit of an attachment to you. Sometimes a girl has a lot of attachment to you, and that stimulates your vasopressin. So when guys have a sexual bond with a girl, we get a bunch of things like oxytocin and beta endorphins, right? But we get a dose of vasopressin. Now, when you add vasopressin in with higher testosterone, and understand that men, are between, 300 to at the low level to 1100 micrograms of testosterone in their system. Okay. Whereas women have 30 to 7 micrograms of testosterone, 30 to 70 rather micrograms. There's a distinct difference between a woman's hormonal profile and a man's hormonal profile. When you add testosterone to vasopressin, it creates it's a bonding system for men. So as men, we don't just bond with oxytocin, we bond with this vasopressin. And that's what causes us to not want to leave her, to want to protect her, to want to make sure she's taken care of, to feel like a bad guy. If her emotions aren't going well, if she's having an emotional breakdown or a bad day or whatever, we feel like we need to solve the problem. The reason why you're always trying to solve her problems is because of this vasopressin. And so guys get this attachment, which is a healthy thing to have, by the way. You don't want to ruin your vasopressin abilities, but it's a protective attachment they get over some girl that they were just having sex with. She was just casual. They never had any plans to go anywhere. And she's not that attractive to him. But he gets in this relationship with her. She checks some blocks. So he rationalized, just like the girl will rationalize marrying a guy that she's not crazy about. Dudes will do it too, but dudes will do it because of the vasopressin. They don't want to break up with her. They feel bad if they do that. If I just next her and go to another girl, I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to feel like I'm not protecting her. They'll feel like it's going to break an attachment for them. They're not going to feel good, right, about that. Even though it's like crazy because you feel like you're sort of like have to protect this person. You feel like you love them, but you don't want to be with, like, you would rather be with some hotter girl who makes you feel better. And so guys get caught in this. This is why guys cheat a lot of times, right? And this is why guys will have short-term sexual flings with girls they're more attracted to, but meanwhile say that they're absolutely in love with their wives and they want to protect and take care of their wives. And why their heart is ripped out and they go into defense mode after they get caught cheating. It's because they didn't have the sexual desire for that wife, but they had an attachment to the wife, and it's the vasopressin causing you to want to protect her. All right. So that's where that all comes from. So what are you going to do with this? I'm getting good compliments, so I have to stroke my own ego. You're a lifesaver, bro. Thank you. Appreciate every piece of your advice. It's helped me do better as a man. Thanks, man. I appreciate it too, dude. I love the support. Thanks for the comment. And jump in the community, dude. I'm just going to keep that saying that as like a broken record. Jump into school, jump in the community. I should probably put it in the chat, even though it's in the damn, the description. But yeah, I mean, there's a free section and a paid section. Okay. So mastermind guys, they get a little bit more attention. Obviously, they're paying for coaching. All right. But you guys can get some TLC too. And more importantly, have better discussions, have higher level discussions. This is why, I call this we have higher level discussions here at Apex Mindsets YouTube channel, but you can do that here on this thing. Anyway, love it, guys. Love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. And if you have like a question about a specific situation, which I see one right here, Miguel, I'll get to it if I can. I won't always see it though. So if you put a super or something, I will see it 100%, guarantees it. But I don't need your money for super chats. I'm just saying it helps me and maybe helps the algorithms. All right, cool. So anyways, back to topics. All right. So this attachment stuff happens, and you guys will allow yourselves to get attached to a girl that's a good girl, but she's not someone you're crazy about, just like women do. But you do it differently than women. So this is why we don't see the comparison. We're always scared about women becoming, marrying us or getting the commitment when we're not her sexual best, right? We're always scared of the woman settling with us because we know that means that we're going to be discarded ultimately or be saddled with a subpar relationship. But what's not talked about enough is that men do it too. Men do it for that protective need, that vasopressin that gets them caught up, where they will feel a love and care for this woman, but they are lacking in sexual desire. They're lacking in that high chemistry. And what that is a recipe for disaster. Never marry or be the good woman because she's a good woman if the chemistry isn't high for you. I can't express enough how damaging that's going to be for you and be for her. You will fail on all fronts. As a man, listen carefully. As a man, you will fail on all fronts if you commit yourself to a good woman that you're not crazy about. You will fail yourself because you are not having the best sex, best, highest emotion, best feelings, best relationship you could have for you. So you fail yourself. But all of this, people will argue. I get people in like the religious communities to argue with me about self-sacrifice here. If you're going to sacrifice yourself, do it for a good reason. This isn't a good reason because what ends up happening is she ends up losing too. Your lack of desire for her is going to cause you to want to step out of that relationship. It's going to cause you to lose the motivation to seduce her. Let me use myself as an example. I try not to, but because you never know, what the future could be like. But all right, so my girlfriend, all right, we're 2 years now. Okay, big deal. I have high desire, high attraction to her, high sexual desire. She has the same thing for me. Now there's an age difference, right, which people mess with me on. She's a hot girl who's 20 years younger than me. I am a average at best looking guy at best. Right. I could probably improve that, but for some reason, I don't know. It's whatever, man. I am what I am. And I don't care because she has high desire, high attraction to me. So sex is 10, dude. It's 10 out of 10. She's with me not because of money or because of any other checklist items. First, other than that thing and the emotional attachment, she's with me first because of the chemistry. The chemistry was so high when we got together. She was abandoning every bit of risk to be with me because there was no indication that I was relationship material at all in the beginning of our relationship. The reality is I know how to do relationships, right? I advise people how to do it, but I enjoy being single. And for a woman, that is a big risk, huge risk in the beginning. She was taking big risks with me because her attraction and emotion and sexual desire was so high, right? But I could have been like, cool, thanks for playing, and, gone on to other women, kept it, get whatever. You discarded the relationship. I had options, right? I had all the options and still do have all the options to go do whatever I want. But we're developing an awesome relationship. So I don't want, it's better being with her, so that's why I stay with her. It's for her, it's better for her to be with me, right? So this is where it's at. But my point is, like, that desire, all that stuff was really high. Okay. And if it wasn't, that thing is not going to survive. All right. It's not going to survive. It's not going to make it. If I'm going to give away my commitment, I'm not settling with someone who's a good woman just so I don't have to be by myself. I like being by myself. I like being single. I'm more productive. I can do it. I have more flexibility. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I don't have to answer to anybody. I lived a lot of my life like that. Right. And so for me to put a commitment down, which means now I have responsibilities to a relationship, that person has to be somebody who's a 10 for me in those categories. Okay. And so that's how you should be approaching this as well. Guys will often settle because of the scarcity. And what happens is their emotional buy-in isn't there. Oh, and my point is, so I enjoy doing things like and putting effort into the relationship because this person was at a 10 for me. Now, is it always at a 10? Are there some times where we might fight or have a disagreement? Or I don't like the behaviors that's happening. I have to institute a boundary, and she's sort of dealing with that, right? And so is it always at a 10 in terms of my level of satisfaction? No, because when you're in a relationship, you're going to go through struggles. You're going to go through apathy, periods where you get distracted, like all kinds of things happen when you're building a life with somebody. You're going to have low points. So anybody who tells you they've never had a low point in their long-term relationship, they're lying to you. Anyone who tells you they've never had a fight in their relationship, they're lying to you. And that's okay. There's friends of mine who are content creators who'd say that same shit, and I know they're lying. And they can lie to you. You know why? Because it's not your business what they do in their relationship, to be honest. It's none of your business. So they can lie if they want. I don't even think that's a bad thing for them to do that. But reality is, though, people have struggles in long-term relationships. She will not always feel at a 10 for you. You will not always feel at a 10 for her. If you can't start off at a baseline of 10 for chemistry, if the beginning of the relationship or at some point in the relationship, she is not madly in love with you and you don't have that high feelings for her where you are satisfied and you would be good being with this person as long as you keep building, for the rest of your life. If you can't get to that point, you're not going to make it. If you don't have a 10 somewhere to start from as a reference point, what happens when there's trouble? There's no motivation to keep it together, even for small things. So those of you guys who settle, you're not doing her a favor either. You're going to create emotional distress, problem, dread, and you're going to feed her a subpar relationship because you won't be motivated to do better. You would do better for the hot girl you want to bang all the time, but the woman that you married who's just a good woman or whatever the hell that means, you're not going to put that effort in. So you actually, again, you fail on all fronts. Okay. You fail at all fronts. Now, this is a good point because I'm going to make some other points here. I think I got the best high sexual chemistry with all the wrong toxic women right now. Yes. And that is a problem. And we're going to address that very thing. Okay. So the first thing is what? First thing is that chemistry, right? So we got that. You have to have that. How do you know? Well, sorry, that wasn't what I meant to say. First thing to get the chemistry, I'm all over the place. First thing to get the chemistry is what? Your identity, right? You have to know what you want. What are your buttons, And so a tool for that, like I said, I give you guidelines in the alpha mindset. You can jump on the free forum, okay, get some feedback. Tell us about your girl. Tell us what you're struggling with. Tell us what you're unsure about. All right. You can do that for free on the forum. You'll get some feedback. Get in the mastermind group. We can do closer work together so you can expedite the process and really get to a place where you're doing better and dialed in, because life is too short to not enjoy the best that you can get, right? And to do the best that you can. And so that's where the mastermind comes in. But outside of that, here's another thing you can do as a tool is just like figuring out who you are. Another step is who would be your perfect girl. And so if you could journal or write on that, you'll figure out who, and I have more of a process of how to do that in the course. So it's a little bit more dialed in, but and as a general advice is you journal on who would be a perfect match for you in terms of her traits, right? And then you see in what makes you attracted to somebody. That's another thing. What makes you sexually attracted? Your sexual triggers. It's important that you satisfy those. If you don't satisfy those, you won't kick in the oxytocin and vasopressin for yourself. Okay, so there's something. She's not pressing your sexual triggers, your buttons. Do you know what your buttons are? If you don't know what your buttons are, you need to figure that out and figure out if that can be created in the relationship or, with this person. Maybe she can't create or press those buttons for you because it's just not who she is. Or maybe there's just certain things she's not doing that she could do. A great example would be a girl who's more sexually reserved. You would want her to be more sexually open and do certain things. Well, that's an easy one. You can train a woman sexually. You can train. This is the thing I kind of laugh about guys who are like, oh, she's not that good in bed. She's probably not good in bed because you're not good in bed. Hate to say it. For most guys, not all guys, but for most guys, it's really what it is, because you're the leader of the sexual interaction. So you actually can, she'll be whatever you want in bed. You just have to know how to make that happen. That's seduction skills. That's sexual skills. Also things we work on in the mastermind as well. And at some point I'll have a separate course for sexual psychology, but it's in the making and I have a lot of other priorities. But that's the thing, is being able to create the sexual situation for her to open up sexually and then start doing the behaviors that would trigger you. You see what I mean? So your sexual triggers could be something you could create through relationship leadership, or maybe she's just not the type of girl, or it doesn't fit her needs or what she wants. Maybe what you're looking for that would press your attraction triggers she can't do. Then if that's the case, you need to go separate ways, okay? Because she's not a good match for you. She's probably not a good genetic match, okay, if that's the case. So that's another tool, though, is to do that inventory. Now let's look at some other things, all right? Got to pick apart my notes. All right, so we got the one thing is figuring you out, right? Now let's look at the other thing. The other thing is when I hear, why isn't the chemistry there? That tells me that this goes back to sex. She doesn't have the sexual desire for you, or doesn't demonstrate the sexual desire for you because of her own hangups, okay? And her own experience. So what's happening is there isn't this oxytocin and high dopamine intensity for her revolving around sex for whatever reason, and she's not pressing your buttons sexually. So when a girl this is why, by the way, the toxic women can be so alluring, and I'll get into that. But when a girl is more sexually free, she's open to she wants to do the things that are going to make you sexually desiring her more versus being in her own head, right? And she's open to you leading her in that direction. And so if you know what you want, okay, so if identity is sorted out, you know who you are, you know what you want, you know what you're looking for in a girl, you're pretty self-aware, but then you're telling me there's no chemistry, that tells me the sex isn't where it needs to be. That's for a man, that's usually what that means. And so then we got to look at why is that? Well, she's not demonstrating the desire. Is she not demonstrating the desire because she doesn't desire you that much? That could be real. And you guys, this is a hard one because guys will ego protect. I have all these guys telling me how they have frame and, I'm her sexual best, I swear. You're probably not a lot of times. Well, a lot of times I don't think these guys are, but it's real important for them to tell themselves that story. Her sexual desire just isn't there. That could be, that's probably the number one thing to look at, provided that she does seem to match what you're looking for in a girl, is that her sexual desire isn't there. And it's probably because you need to improve yourself sexually. And here's why that is. Even if it's her lack of experience and maybe she has emotional or mental hangups, part of your sexual skill is getting her through those hangups. Because what happens is when you create intense and somewhat unpredictable sexual events where she doesn't feel like she's in control anymore, and this is where dominance comes in, it causes her to stop trying to get into, she has to release control, basically. And it causes her to get immersed in the experience because of what's happening, because the intense feelings, physical sensations, emotional sensations, and that feeling of being out of control causes her to get out of her head, basically. And then she can be more free with you sexually, and then she'll react better sexually. And then she's going to have more orgasms, more attachment, want more sex from you. And it's just a snowballing effect to you finally getting the sex that you would want from this person who seems like they would be a good match. So it's a sexual skill problem, most likely. And that problem starts with you as a man because you lead it. Now, it could be a her problem too, though. Maybe there's sexual trauma. Maybe there's issues that she has. She needs therapy. Okay. Maybe she has the maximum desire for you. So you are her sexual best, but she just doesn't. She has a lot of barriers. But maybe she doesn't see you as the sexual best, which means do not commit to her. You got to move on from that. And don't make it about you and your ego, because you will suffer if you can't humble yourself and have objective reality. Okay. If you make it about your ego, then you're going to lose. All right. So sexual desire, that's probably the number one thing. Once you understand what your identity is, what you're looking for in a chick, then it's like, well, what is she not triggering for you? Well, there's something sexual there. All right. That's most likely for most men. All right. And so again, that's assuming she's an actual good match. You understand your identity. You did some evaluation of some sort, whether it's from my Alpha Mindset course or whether it's getting feedback from one of my coaching groups or whether it's just on your own journaling. You know that this girl should be a good match for you, but for some reason the chemistry isn't there. That means sex isn't where it needs to be, most likely. Now, there's these other aspects too, okay? So another one could be that you have trauma. So you need to look at yourself and figure this out. Do you have avoidant attachment tendencies? Okay, so it's usually avoidant attachment type people. When you have trauma, what happens is, okay, when you have trauma revolving attachment, all right, whether it's from bad breakups or family problems, abuse as kid, whatever it might be, what happens is love or desire or even sex also comes with a sense of anxiety or a sense of avoidance or a sense of resentment. So when somebody has trauma, they get the good feelings from the relationship, the sex, the love feelings. But with those good feelings is either anxiety, like, what's she going to do to fuck me over? Where's that shoe going to drop? What's going to happen that's bad? Or it's, I don't want to feel I know I'll be disappointed. So I'm going to, suppress my feelings. So that suppressing feelings is avoidant behavior. So that's your avoidant attachment stuff, right? Or you've been hurt before and you associate these good feelings with a level of certainty, even if it's unconscious, that she's going to fuck you over. And these guys who have bad feelings about women in general, you'll see that in their language. A lot of your red pill, black pill types, they'll get with a girl, and then it's like, well, women this and women that. They still have a real bad sort of concept about women. And what they'll do is they'll resent the girl. They resent the girl. The girl will be trying her damnedest, and she'll be in a relationship with him, and she'll be, trying to be the best she can be, and he'll resent her for it because he assumes that as a woman she's going to do A, B, and C, to harm him in some way. And so that guy, you could be associating your love feelings with resentment, all right, and defenses. And so if you have trauma, you're going to do those things, one of those things or a combination of them, that's going to get in the way of you feeling, excited about this girl that you're with, all right? Another one, and this is the last one I'll mention. Okay, so what happens with that, right? You got to get rid of the trauma, all right? So this could be therapy. With me, it would be EMDR therapy, a discovery session, potential hypnosis, hypnotherapy, okay, and some mental fitness tools. There's a cognitive behavioral therapeutic element to that where we're talking about things, but we would unravel and unpack and overcome trauma for you so that you don't have this suppressed feeling of of desire and love for this person. You know what I mean? So that could be a reason, and you have to be the one to decide. And if you're confused about it, just tell us your story on the school. Tell me what's going on. If you're like, dude, I don't know what's wrong with me, but this happened when I was a kid. I had this bad breakup. I had a toxic relationship. If those things are in your history and you feel a sense of self-protection and you do maladaptive or bad behaviors because of it, and then you don't feel a connection to a girl who you should be crazy about, this is a you problem. We need to unravel that. And that's why what this guy asked with this question is actually a really smart question. Because most guys would just assume, well, that's the girl. I'm not attracted to her, whatever. I'll go for someone else. And then they go with some crazy broad, right? Because but he's smart enough when he asked that question to know that the problem might be within himself. That's why I love that question. Some of you guys ask such good questions on YouTube, dude. And I love it because that's the other side of it. For all the douchebags who just want prescriptions and they don't know, they don't have any self-awareness. They're lower level thinkers. Some of you guys are really higher level thinkers. And that's this guy. He understood, okay, like this might be a me problem. This might be something going on with me. And she could be a great girl. And if I lose this opportunity with her, I'm going to lose opportunities with other future potential great girls because the problem's with me. And if I don't fix me, I can't do better with anybody, right? So that's a really high level of awareness that a lot of people don't have. That's why what kicked off the stream, that question that I read earlier, is such a good one. All right. And so if that's you, you need to work on that stuff. You'll never do well in any of your relationships until you solve your attachment issues and your trauma. Okay. And that's what part of what got me into helping guys in the performance psychology side of it is dealing with trauma, with PTSD. All right. And stuff like that. Dealing not just with my own issues, but other soldiers who had bad consequences from combat. But a lot of it wasn't just combat. A lot of it was relationship problems when they got home, and it was problems readjusting, all kinds of things, right? Guys with these issues. And if you have these issues based in traumatic thinking and reactions, you can't do better until you remove those things. So that's what it might be for you. So you got to do identity work, figure yourself out. You got to do an evaluation of what kind of girl you want in your life that suits your identity. That's number 2, right? And you want to make sure the sex is good and that you know how to lead a girl sexually into having amazing experiences. Because if she's a right match for you, but you can't lead sexually, or she has sexual hangups that you can't get her through, all right, then that means you're not going to have chemistry. Though the neurochemical reaction, her oxytocin and attachment feelings and your attachment feelings, those things won't get triggered like they should if you're not having high sexual experiences. And that includes the emotional experiences surrounding the sex, the aftercare, the beforehand, the lead up, all those things. Okay. So that's the other thing. The 4th thing is your trauma. All right. If you have trauma, it's getting in the way, and you'll suppress yourself from having good feelings about somebody who would be a good match for you, which leaves you now left over with toxic women. And then that gets us to number 5, which is a lot of your guys' problems. Okay. Which is that you had been through a toxic relationship, the highs of that, and the anxiety and the dread that comes with that, and the lows that come with being devalued and doing this roller coaster with BPD women or just crazy ass women or, typical westernized women in 2024, right? You've been in these bad relationships and you didn't have frame in those relationships the way that you should have had it. These girls should have been casual at best, and you're in full-blown relationships, completely attached with all your oxytocin, vasopressin going crazy, your beta endorphins getting triggered over there, right? Completely attached to some girl. You shouldn't be attached to her. She's a crazy person, all right? And you're going in this up and down thing, all right? And so now what you've done with that is you've reconditioned your sexual triggers or your attraction triggers. And I call it, you polluted your attraction triggers. You recondition those triggers. So instead of being, really sexually attracted to a healthy chick, you're really sexually attracted to that one that has those little subcommunications that shows that she's maybe a lunatic, right? Oh, the one that kind of sounds like really, I'm just a girl. And, but then this bad thing happened to me and I felt so sad. She's a victim, right? Plays the victim, but does it real subtly. And you're just like, oh, I want to take her in and blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like you guys just want you want a white knight and Captain Sabaho, these girls, right? That kind of behavior. She has those, she's got a sleeve full of tattoos, and she's got some erratic behavior. She's maybe a little bit slutty this way or that way, all things that should be red flags, right? And something that should signal in your brain to keep her casual and for recreational use only or friend zone only. And if you want a long-term relationship or if you're open to that, pursuing that with other more healthy women, that's what should be triggered in your brain. But instead you're like, yeah, sleeve tattoo single mom who plays the victim. That's the one for me. I'm gonna have sex with her in the bathroom at the bar and then have her, do some more sex in my car the first time I meet her. And now I love her and I'm going to, meet her kid on the 3rd date and I'm going to have a relationship. Like this is the shit that a lot of you guys do or want to do before you came across some material to tell you not to, thank God, right? For some of us. Whether it's a red pill thing or whether it's my shit or whatever. And so like, yeah, this is the problem. Right. And then it's like crack. You shouldn't do crack, but then, septum piercing, dreadlock, sleeve tattoo girl with a belly ring comes in and you can't you can't help yourself. You know what I mean? You just can't. And you're just right in it. And then you're like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have. And I'm really, how about you guys who are stuck? I've had 3 different guys in the last couple days now, like stuck in the trenches with some borderline personality disorder girl. How about that? Right? Instead of the normal, like what a healthy person would do, your reaction should have been, wow, she's crazy. And focus on other women. Your reaction was, tell me more about that. Let me flirt with you. Maybe we should, wow, that was your reaction. Right? And then giving me all the reasons why, you should be with her. Like, here's the fucking trick though, for those of you guys who are in it. A lot of you guys, by the time you get to like a one-on-one consult, that's why I'm so goddamn expensive too, because I want you to do some inventory. I want you to do a lot of work before you make that appointment so that our work is going to be more beneficial to you, right? Most of the guys who get on that one-on-one with me, they know this, what I'm saying. They know they're being stupid, but they have the attachment. It's that high chemistry to the toxic woman that keeps you stuck. And there's a way to break that, and you probably won't do it on your own very well. It'll just sort of happen, and you'll be left with the mess to clean up. There's a way to break the attachment to a toxic woman, but it's a process that is not, it's easy to understand, hard to do, but if you do it, you have the skill the rest of your life. Like you're fucking good. But it takes the most amount of intestinal fortitude and discipline. Like you have to really be a badass guy and know the steps. You won't do it on your own though. You won't. You need support. Like if you're going to break the attachment yourself because you know the person's toxic, you need support to do that. All right. That's why I'm here. And if it's not me, friends, somebody who knows their shit and who can, it's like Alcoholics Anonymous. You need a sponsor, or you need at least a community of guys to say, where you could just brain dump all your stupid ideas down, right, of what you think you're going to do. And then these guys can go, whoa, dude, don't do that, right? She's crazy. You stay the course and do the simple solution. Don't contact her. Keep shit, going in the direction of separating your life, right? You need that feedback, and you need it every single day, because your emotions and your attachment is stronger than some of the most powerful drugs. You will harm yourself with these toxic women, and most of you have done that. Now, if you don't break the attachment yourself, what happens is the relationship gets just broken. Okay, she finally finds another penis, and you are sitting there being cucked, trying to rationalize to yourself that you're the best penis and not these other people that she's getting penis from. And that's how it ends. All right. And now you're going to try to move on with your life and have a healthy relationship. This is where you guys get fucked up. The healthy woman, and I'm saying this from experience, I'm not there anymore, thank God. Okay. But years and years ago, I screwed myself up, got into it with some toxic women. And then that's what I was attracted to. And it took a little bit of time, not a lot of time, because it's not time, it's resilience in knowing the right steps. But I had to break that sort of tendency to go with toxic women. I had to recondition my triggers. So what I'm sexually attracted to, there's an innate portion of that can't really be changed. It has to be redirected. At least I believe that. Okay. But I mean, vagina is vagina. A girl is a girl, right? So we're not talking about something totally drastic here. We're talking about one girl or another girl. So when we're dealing with certain behavioral sets that trigger these attractions in you, those can be redirected. Those can be channeled into a better direction. And if you're attached to toxic women, good luck. You're not going to do well, because you won't have the awareness when a healthy woman is around to know whether she could press your buttons or not. So there's the aspect of, is the woman capable of pressing your buttons in general? And then there's an aspect of, okay, I'm attracted to some toxic stuff. I need to feel repelled when I see toxic behaviors. I need to feel repelled by that, and instead feel attracted to the less toxic stuff, the things that are healthy, the green flags, and those sorts of things. There's a process you have to go through. Okay. And we're already an hour and a half in this video. It's too extent, and it's personal stuff. So it's too extensive to do here. We have to do it. You and I have to do it, or somebody who knows about this shit has to do it with you. Okay. Because you got to recondition your attraction triggers. This happens to women all the time when they're in toxic. This is why having daddy issues and toxic relationships in their past is not a good, it's not a good sign for your success in the future with her. The reason for that is because she is now polluted those attraction triggers and is attracted to those toxic things, and your healthy behaviors will be less attractive to her. So what she will try to do then is do things in the relationship to cause you to be toxic, because she wants that. This is where she'll get into toxic communication, and also the retroactive, or not retroactive, but the um, reactive abuse type behaviors where she does things intentionally to push your buttons, to make you angry, to try to make you lose frame, make you be toxic. She does it because she's attracted to that. Her attraction triggers had been polluted through toxic relationships. And for you guys, many of you, it's the same thing. And this is why you keep going for the same shitty women when you probably have a more attractive, both physically and behaviorally and emotionally, more and intellectually, more attractive choices out there that you're not courting, you're not taking. Okay. And there's reasons too, like how a healthy woman acts in the beginning of a relationship isn't the same as what you guys are used to. You know what I mean? You guys are too busy seeing if she'll do a one night stand or sleep with you on the first date or send you nudes or do all bullshit, by the way, which are red flags. You guys, this is what happens. This is one criticism of people in the red pill community is that they promote, they have this idea that you're supposed to get girls to do toxic shit with you in the beginning, and then they shame those things as being red flags. It's like you want her to break the rules for you because need to be the alpha. So you want this girl. You're picking the girl who does the things that are red flags in the beginning, while in the back end going, well, she slept with me on the first date and she has slept with 10 people before. I think she might be a whore. Maybe I should keep her as a plate. Like, these are the things that's my critique for some, not all, okay, but some people in the red pill community do that shit. All right. It's kind of ridiculous, really, right? And so if you're doing that, stop doing that. Okay. There's behaviors that a girl will do when she's healthy that doesn't match the toxic girl and doesn't even match some of the things like that the internet communities are telling you it should match. And she could be every bit a great choice for you. And so it's about recognizing those green flags. It's about knowing how to court the girl who isn't a fucking nut job, right? Because you're so used to courting nut jobs. You see what I mean? And so that's where we got to fix that part of you, fix those attraction triggers. Now, here's the good news, and there'll be a final point about that piece, which is that there's the reason guys don't want to fix this because they have this illusion that the toxic girl is always going to be the better sex. It's like how girls think that the guy who alpha widows them or the toxic guy is always going to be the one they're attracted to. So then they have to settle for the beta guy that is nice and comforting, right? Guys have the same paradigm. They just do it a little different. Okay. A lot of guys think that, well, the toxic crazy girl is always going to be better sex. So here's a point on that. Okay. This is one that you need to take to the bank with you. And you really need to understand this shit, is that the toxic girl is better at sex for a reason. She's probably been doing it longer, and she's been probably conditioning herself to be triggered with intense emotions through brand new dick. Okay. So she's used to mate switching, cheating, and used to sleeping with a lot of guys. So her sexual triggers are not from getting a familiarity of a guy with a guy that she's been dating long term, opening up more and then letting go of her inhibition sexually and being a crazy sex object after dating a guy for a while. Her trigger is new guy, new penis. Okay. So that's the first thing. Already red flag, not a good sign for long-term success. Someone who should be recreational use only, and you guys are trying to wife that girl up. But that's part of it. So she is less reserved in the beginning because that's where her triggers are. The other part of it is that because she's emotionally erratic, her emotions are high when they're high. All right. But with that, there's going to be a downside, all right, which is the toxic behavior. The other side of it too is that because of that downside, your anxiety's high. So she's also probably doing it as a strategy. In other words, she's trying to get you so that she can use you for the benefits. That's how more toxic women attach and relate in their dating lives and sex lives. Okay, so she ends up pushing your buttons because she's figuring you out. She wants to get you to feel high emotions because she's fearful of abandonment, or she's fearful of this and that. And then once she gets in there, once you get emotionally bought in, then it's the toxic behavior that will follow. Okay. And so that's, something she's doing intentionally. So she's free because she's a little crazy, and also less self-protective. Toxic women aren't trying to protect themselves from sleeping with the wrong guy. They're trying to fulfill a void inside themselves. They got the daddy issue, they got abandonment issues, they got emotional problems, and they're trying to find penis to fulfill that void. Whereas a healthy girl is looking to have a healthy relationship. She doesn't have a void. So she's not eagerly jumping on you in the same way. All right. And so you guys will think, well, obviously the girl eagerly jumping on you is going to be the better sex, right? So that's why toxic sex seems like it's better. But here's the trick, okay? And here's the other piece. The toxic girl, first of all, you're nothing to her. You got to understand, and a lot of you guys don't like to hear this. Your toxic girlfriend, your best sex girl who is a little bit crazy, okay? You think that, you're just wanting to be her sexual best. That's you. That's that territorial vasopressin that you have for this girl, your toxic ex or whatever, right? Or the girl you're with right now who's toxic. I'm her sexual best. You ain't shit. You are another guy. You could be her best or you could not be, and she doesn't know the difference. You're the guy in front of her. That's what you are. She does this program. She is replaying a program to fulfill her void and to get her feelings and intense feelings met. She's been doing this program for a while. If you're an adult, okay, and she's slept with people before, which she has, I'm sure, she has run this program several times. You're just the guy in front of her. And when she discards you, it'll be the next guy that she runs the same program with. And if you get into those details, you're going to find as she cucks you with another guy, she's going to go to the same places you used to go with her. She's going to have sex the same way. She's going to want to do adventurous things with that new guy like she did with you. And you're going to be sitting there, and there'll be some differences, but you'll be, a lot of you guys who are stuck in that attachment will be sitting there going, no, I'm the best. Let me rationalize why. Let me ruminate. Let me talk for hours with people and binge watch YouTube to figure out how I'm some toxic woman's sexual best because my self-esteem needs it. Dude, it's a fucking pathetic thing situation you're in. And I've been there. It's pathetic. Okay. I'll never go there again. And you need to get out of that. These girls are running a program, dude. All right. And you're nothing fucking special. Now, but the sex seems better. Okay. Here's the trick though. When you get really good at seduction skills, you take a normal girl and you build this intensity. So for her, she is having crazier sex with you than the toxic girl. The difference is she's not toxic. She's a healthy girl. So she has good communication skills. She can follow your frame. She's not as insecure with herself, not trying to cheat on you, not always looking around the corner or looking to the next thing, right? Not trying to devalue you. So like you don't have this downside. It's just this upside. And then maybe sometimes, right, there's these little lulls that can happen because of life and everything. But you don't get this downside. Some of you guys associate because this is what makes you addicts. It's like a gambling addiction or like a drug addiction for some people. It's like you associate high feelings with the downside. And this is part of your problem. You know that there's another world out there, another way to live your life where you don't have the downside. You just have all those high feelings. It's pretty badass, actually. And here's the thing. Those feelings are higher for the healthier girl, for you and for her, than it was in any of your toxic situations. The reason why, when you know seduction and you know how to fuck a girl right, okay? Let's be blatant. At the end of the video, I want to be just blatant. Hopefully I won't get too censored. When you know how to bang her right, okay? When you know sexual psychology, when you have that game, not just pickup skills, but that deeper level of game and frame, you take it to that level with her. And here's the good part, the best part, in my opinion, is you're actually special. She's not running a program on you. She hasn't done the same high intensity sex program with you that she's done with her last 10 boyfriends, right? Leaving you questioning whether you're her best or not. You know this girl you're her best. You know 100%. And you know it because she has never experienced this intensity before. This is something she got led and seduced into, something she's always wanted to get seduced into. She's always wanted a guy. Guaranteed, every girl out there has always wanted that guy who could take her to this high level of emotion, high level of sexual feelings, high level of experiences, right? And so she's wanted that guy all her life, but she's not been with. Most guys are actually bad at sex. Statistically speaking, that's a fact. And the ones that are halfway decent at it, they don't know how to seduce to a high level. So when you have those skills, and sexual skills is not just the act of shoving your thing in her thing, okay? That's real basic, all right? It's the game and psychology that leads up to the sexual event, as well as what's happening during and then the aftercare. When you understand that process, you literally bang a girl's out of her mind. And the healthy girl becomes someone who's very attached to you and somebody who is having high experience with you that she's not having with other people. She's not running a program. So if you're stuck on toxic women, you need to get it out of your head that it's the best sex of the toxic women, and that you need to settle for a girl that you're less excited about. That's the myth. That's the psyop or whatever. That's the thing that's not true. Okay. You have not experienced what I'm talking about probably. And so this is why building those skills is so important. I'm going to, I got consults I got to get to. So I'm going to go kind of backwards here and see. I got one question I'm going to answer. All right. And that's this one. How can I break my addiction to women? I really want a family and a child, but had too many disappointments in the dating world. Should I just give up on women and focus on career and myself? Well, I don't know, man. What do you think, Miguel? Do you think you should take defeat as an option? You think you should give up? I think giving up is a good idea as a man. You know better than that, right? You don't fucking give up. Life is life, dude. You know, you're already going to wake up tomorrow morning. You're already going to do a bunch of things. Why not do better, right? Giving up is never an option. All right. You're not going to be a quitter. You're asking me this question because, you either want me to give you permission to quit or you want me to not, to tell you something so you don't quit. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to give you permission to quit. You don't have my permission to quit. None of you guys have permission to give up. All right. I don't care how toxic women are in the United States. I don't care how Western women are. I don't care about feminism. I don't care about how fat people have gotten nowadays. I don't care about all the other things. All right. It doesn't give you an excuse to quit. It means you figure it out. You find a way. All right. So that's that. Now let's talk about what you need to do now, right? Because that's me just telling you not to quit is only part of it. Yeah, get on my group. I know I've been broken record here, but get in school, okay? The free part, and then if we want to do some coaching, let me know. All right. But look, man, we say addiction to women. I don't know what you mean by addiction, but what it sounds like to me when a guy is saying, like, the subtext of what you're saying, and I'm just looking at one thing you're writing here, right? Is that you have something you want, a particular life that you envision with a woman, but that you have more or less a scarcity when it comes to women. In other words, when I say scarcity, I don't mean maybe you're having sex with a few girls. Okay, so I don't mean scarcity necessarily in terms of sex. I mean scarcity in terms of options for finding a girl to have what you envision. All right. So you want, because if you want a family and a child, there's a woman in that picture. And I think what you're not saying here, what most guys won't say, is they want a woman. You want a chick that loves you, that desires you, and that wants to be with you. Like that's what you want, right? That's what guys want, and it's okay to want that. Okay, but there's a scarcity. The women in your life aren't matching that person. You either don't have any women in your life, or the few girls that you've dated or have been having sex with, or plates, or whatever you want to call them, right? They're not at the level of what you would need to be at in certain areas of their life, their personality, their life, in order to be a good girl for you to raise a family with. So that's what you're dealing with, right? There's a scarcity there. And there may be some things going on with you, with your inner game, that is a barrier to you getting what you want. All right. So what you're asking is like, how do you break the addiction? How you break an addiction to women is abundance. Like if I know I can get attractive women to have sex with me pretty much anytime I want. And it's to a level, my point, it's to a level where I don't even have to be attractive. And I can make that happen. When you are able to do that, you can now start to be selective. Okay. You can go, I'm not going to sleep with these girls over here, even though I might be able to do that. I'm not going to be ruminating and focusing on women because they're just women, right? I'm going to have my eye out in the dating market for good potential long-term person. And that good potential long-term person isn't going to be somebody that is 100% perfect when you meet her. It's going to be somebody who has enough green flags and enough traits to where she can become, as she moves along the process of getting into a relationship with you, she gets into your frame and she becomes your perfect match. Okay. Because her innate abilities and traits are there. It's just a matter of learning how to operate with you, be in your frame. And maybe she does have some behaviors and some stuff that are not good for long-term relationships that she can change, right? But you have your eye out and you have a skill set in being able to pick those women out and build high desire, high attraction, get them through a process of getting in a relationship with you, having frame in that relationship that she gets deeply immersed into. So now she becomes your perfect match. Okay. It's about you, man. It's your skills, your leadership skills. So if you don't have those abundance of options, it's because you're lacking in those skills. And it's not just go to the gym, bro, look good, and make a bunch of money. Those are really important things, by the way, especially depending on your age and your level of game. You do want to maximize your looks. All right. It's not as necessary as people think, but you do want to maximize that. You do want to do well financially for you. You do want to do well in life, right? For your purpose, not for some girl. Okay. You want to increase your sexual market value. I'm not saying it's not important, but that by itself is not going to get what you want. I promise it won't, because I know so many men, they end up in consults with me. A lot of these guys they're in the mastermind group, and I had to help them unfuck their relationships or dating problems. and they were high SMV. They had all the SMV. All right. More SMV than I have. You know what I mean? But the game skills aren't there. And so they don't have the abundance. There's already a scarcity in terms of numbers. But it's not like there's no girls out there. That's a cope. That's not true. So you find these girls, you can pick them out if you're in any level of populated area. And if you're not, you just go to those areas or you use the internet. It's actually not that hard. In 2024, it's so you have nothing but a globe, an entire universe, entire world of women to choose from. Billions of women. Okay. They're not all trashy, terrible feminists or whatever, or fatties or whatever it is. You got to get out of your town, right? Sometimes, but you have options, man. And you have options with great chicks out there. And here's the thing. Those great chicks, they're looking for a guy like you. They're looking for the dude who can lead them sexually and emotionally into having high desire, those great experiences I'm talking about, and also be a stable relationship partner for them to build a life with, which is what you're talking about here. All right. And so they need that. They want that. They can't find it. They can't find it just like you can't find them. It's a skill in finding them. This is why I teach body language. This is why I teach tactical empathy. This is why I teach, the communication skills, sexpionage, did a whole thing on that. It's not just getting people to do what you want. It's also about assessing them and vetting them and getting a profile on them. You're dating 3 girls right now. Do you have a profile on them? Do you know who is likely who's showing the micro and macro communication, evidence and who's showing the traits of being a potentially good girl? Besides some basic red flags list off of someone's YouTube channel or something, which could be my YouTube channel. I've done red flags too, but it's got to go deeper than that. It's these skills in vetting. It's these skills in understanding who is a good match for you. That's really what we're talking about here. This is why I talked about identity, because that's a part of that too. So it's a process, man. But I tell you, man, like you go through this process. I mean, look, is having a good income and being able to pay for shit. And we're not even talking about being rich. Just having a good income in society, in the world today, is fucking hard. Most people are in poverty. Most people who say who would be considered middle class or average are living in impoverished lifestyles. They don't have enough money to pay for basic things, to pay for emergencies, to not suffer. It's difficult, for example, to make yourself financially viable enough to do well and to be able to thrive. I say difficult when you know how to do it. It's not, okay? But there's some level of difficulty there, some level of work and training and learning. It doesn't come automatically unless, you got lucky, your parents had money or something, right? But for most people, it doesn't come automatically. You got to learn it. If you want to now be a multi-millionaire and be considered rich, you're talking about like 5% of people, 10% of people. Let's say you just want to be the top 15% income wise. Is that just going to happen for you magically? No, you have to put some work into it, right? Well, guess what, man? 15% of long-term relationships are successful because those people report, happiness. 85% of long-term relationships are not successful. They either break up or they're unhappy. And some of these people will be in unhappy relationships for 20, 30 years, for long periods. So if you want to be even just being in the top 15% of income takes a certain level of accomplishment, work, things you got to do. You got to do this too. Okay. Now the difference is though, nobody's telling you how to do it exactly the way you need to. Mostly, there's me, but most people are not telling you how to build up that relationship. and how to have abundance with women, how to build desire, how to put a girl in frame. Most people are not getting into the weeds and the details of it. They'll talk about it, they'll talk about concepts, but to dial you in specifically is not happening. And this is why most guys are lost. And it seems like an immense amount of work. And some guys will go, why should I put so much effort into a woman? You're not. You're putting the effort into yourself. You're not doing this for a woman. You're doing it for you. All right. And just like if you want to be, even a 6-figure income, just something minimal as making $100,000 a year, which to me is a minimal requirement. That's hard to do. If you want to do that, that takes skill and you have to put effort into that. If you want to have a peak level relationship and do really well with a long-term relationship, it's going to take skill, and you don't see it yet. Most of you guys don't. When you're not sure like this, it's because you don't have it yet. Okay. And that's okay. Like, dude, I wasn't born with it. I was terrible with women when I was really young, for sure. It's been a process of development, but you don't have to do it on your own now. Okay. You don't have to magically figure it out or get lucky. Part of it was just me. Some of it was just dumbass luck that I learned some of the things I learned. You know what I mean? Most people don't get lucky. Most people left to chance suffer, and they don't get what they want. So don't leave it to chance. Don't give up. All right. Let's do the work and figure out the right work to do. Okay. You know where to find me. All right. Because you need to seek out more knowledge. And start being here is great because that's part of it. Well, you seek out that knowledge and seduction and you open up those options. Having an abundance of options makes you less obsessive. All right. I'm not talking about sleeping with thousands of women or anything. I'm just talking about having a lot of options. Having the options because your skills are high and you know how to make things happen with women gives you an abundance. And having an abundance means you're not obsessing. You're less likely to cheat. Do you know that? If you have an abundance of women because of your skill set, all right, you had an abundance, and then let's say you're a Christian or a Muslim and you want to get traditionally married. So you got into a traditional marriage, you're monogamous, but you had an abundance with women and you still retain those skills. You're less likely to cheat and you're more likely to keep your monogamous relationship together and to maintain your values than somebody who had a scarcity with women. I make that argument. And the reason why is because the guy with scarcity is the guy who's more likely to settle, right? He's more likely to get married because he wants sex. He just wants his wiener touched, and he hasn't matured past that. He's the guy who, most guys who don't cheat can't cheat, and that's why they don't cheat, all right? There are a few men out there who do want like the monogamous thing, and they don't cheat. I would argue a lot of those men have the skill to get other women. They know it. They have abundance, and they satisfy that part. It makes them less obsessive. It makes them less focused on women. When you know you got it, you can not have to focus on it. You have that area of your life covered. The guys that obsess over this stuff, like in a way where it's interrupts their life, they're the ones who don't have it. They don't have the skill. And at least not enough yet. They have some, but it's not quite there yet. So let's work on that stuff together. You know where to find me, right? I've said it a million times. All right. Well, it was good talking to you guys today. Thanks for joining me. And that'll be the end of today.